Have you ever wondered why we experience a power outage whenever there is a heavy downpour?
Why does the value of the naira keep falling against dollar?
And why does the benchmark of the sale of crude oil keeps changing in the 2020 budget?
Should Nigeria's land borders remain permanently closed?
Why are risk underwriting companies seeking for funds to recapitalize their operations?
For these and many more questions begging for answers,
please join the Nigerian Economics Today's crew every Thursday at 3 to 4 p.m. on Super Screen Television for a deep analysis of the economy by seasoned professionals on issues and occurrences as they break. Super Screen Television, your dependable ally in business news, reports, analysis, interview, and many more.
Nigeria's Economy Today, touching base with all you need to know.
You're welcome back, and thank you for joining us on the program. It is still Nigeria's Economy Today. It is no longer news that some workforce have had to cope with pay cuts instead of job loss as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. To what extent has this pandemic affected job security in Nigeria? To answer this question and lead in the conversation on what on a topic, COVID-19 and the threat to job security in Nigeria, is an human resources specialist, Mr. Tominiyi Oni. Mr. Oni, you are welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank
you. Mr. Oni, you are aware that some organizations have started doing pay cuts for their employees instead of asking them to leave the job entirely because of this pandemic. What implications does this have on productivity generally?
So thank you very much for having me. I think first and foremost, when it comes to discussing COVID-19 and its fallout, I always first want to pay respect to all the souls that have been lost, all the deaths. In Nigeria today, I mean, it's been a lot. All over the world, it's a lot. So I just wish that their souls will rest in peace. Now, let's come to the issue of the workplace and cutting wages, cutting salaries, or maybe salary variations. I think these are coping mechanisms of different organizations. So it's almost like we've been impacted by COVID-19. We've been impacted by the lockdown. We don't have enough, fund to continue business. And so we need to discuss with our employees to then say, hey, how can we manage this together? So I see a couple of organizations. There are two extremes. The first extreme on the left side will be continue as usual. Continue to pay your people. It does not matter. And the multinationals, many of the multinationals did that. And they said, we will not cut salaries until we'll pay everybody the same salary they used to get until end of June. Now, from the 1st of July, we'll now start reviewing. Now, on the other extreme, are also businesses that have said, you know what, we cannot even continue to do business. So we are closing shop. Everybody go home, or majority of people go home. So those ones sacked people. Now, in the middle are then the organizations that are like, doing variations of things. So let's cut salaries by 50%, by 20%, by 10%. Oh, let's stop, since you are not coming to work, let's stop transport allowance. Let's stop meal allowance. Since you're not coming to work anyway, you're in your houses, so let's stop that, and then we'll pay you the rest. And for some people, let's just pay you basic salary. Forget about the other allowances. When business, comes back to normal, we will start paying you, or we will even pay you and backdate it to when we stop paying you, so that you can get all, so it's not all lost. Some organizations also said something around, you know what, this year nobody's getting leave allowance. We will use that to fund our business. By the end of the year, if the business picks up, we will pay you. So we are not owing you guys, we are only keeping it
now, do you think
for ourselves.
These actions taken by these different organizations, do you think it will affect the productivity of the organization in a way?
Yeah, I mean, in many ways, really. So basically what companies are supposed to do is to, engage their employees, dialogue with them. It's not something you do unilaterally. It's not something you just cut and say, take it or leave it. No, it's something you have to sit down with your employees and have a discussion. This is our projection for December 2020. This is the impact that COVID-19 outbreak and the lockdown has had on our business. Based on this impact, our projections for 2020 have been impacted by negative 30%. Because of that, we will need to, play a win-win situation where the company loses a bit, you lose a bit, but in the end, all of us win. So it's a win-win situation. What are you ready to forgo? You'll be surprised as the employees that will be telling you, okay, you know what? Maybe we can take this cut or that cut, and then we can continue our business.
Okay, talking about taking some cuts.
Yeah.
Like you rightly said, some people have actually taken cuts in forgoing meal allowance, transport allowance.
Yes.
Not many employees go to work on a daily basis now.
Yeah.
Now, some are even compelled to stay at home and work online.
Correct.
Don't you see another threat there that those employees that are now working online, the organizations might wake up tomorrow and say that, okay, I don't think we need you in the service of the organization again. Don't you see that as another threat, as the employees may eventually lose their job?
Look, I always relate this to if you are in an airplane, you're already airborne.
Yes.
And then the landing gears, the tires are flat. And you have to change the landing gear while you are airborne. Nobody can predict the outcome, the end result. So we are all learning as we go along. We are learning, we are relearning, we are unlearning. So really, you cannot say this thing cannot happen at the end. It's a possibility. It's very uncertain. We're not sure. However, if things come back to the new normal, everybody is saying that it will never go back to the old normal. It will be the new normal. Human beings are social animals. We always need that interaction. So there will always be one job or the other for people. Now, this is where the challenge comes for human resources professionals, in the sense that we need to start looking at how are you going to reskill your people for the challenges that are coming next. So it's not just about COVID-19. It's about technology. So now Zoom is there, Microsoft Teams is there, Google is there with their app. So everybody's having meetings online. So even when the plane starts flying, as we've started in Nigeria, I do not see anything that will take me to Abuja for a meeting unless the organization I'm dealing with don't have that technology. So for the rest of this year, we're all still going to be impacted by movement. We will all be cautious. So there are challenges, really. And in this instance, many organizations are finding out that, okay, maybe this job is not so important. Maybe this task is not so important. Maybe we can outsource this one. Maybe we can just, digitize this one. So it's possible. But what should happen is that those who do those kind of work today, how do you help them upskill so that they can do other jobs of the near future? I think that's the biggest challenge that is facing the human resources professionals of today.
Thank you very much. Viewers, you can also participate in this discussion. It is COVID-19 and the threat to job security in Nigeria. You can use the telephone numbers on the screen of your television to call us. We will give you audience on the show. Now, Mr. Oni, we have talked about employees. We want to talk about the concerns of the employers. Some employers are really asking government to give them palliatives. Yeah. I know of those that are in the private teaching sectors. And there are some messages that came up recently in WhatsApp that federal government wants to pay some teachers in the private sector salaries from when the school stopped paying them. So employers are also finding it very, very difficult or challenging this time around. And they're asking for palliatives. Yeah. Now, for employers, would you subscribe to government giving employers palliatives? And if you subscribe, what kind of palliatives would you recommend for organizations? Thank you very much.
This topic is very important for all employers, really, in the private sector. Unfortunately, in our nation, we don't really plan ahead. So in some countries, they furlough staff, which means government is able to pay like up to 80% of the salaries of staff that are impacted by COVID-19. So companies will only come up with 20%, 30%. So they are able to survive. And when everything goes back to this new normal, they would then be able to continue as if nothing happened. Here, we don't plan, unfortunately, and that's really a challenge that we face with our leadership in this nation. However, it is not too late.
So what can the government do?
So my sense is, depending on how the COVID-19 outbreak has impacted each organization, then the palliative can come, so that it will not be one size fits all. For example, which sectors have this pandemic impacted the most? Airline.
Good.
Hotels. Entertainment. Restaurant. Okay, maybe in a way, but
no, you are excluding schools.
Private schools, but you know, some of them went online. They even forced us parents to pay for online services for our children. I know we discussed it on our platform. My last born is in SS3.
Okay.
And they're supposed to be writing exams now. So since they've been home, they've been doing online studies. And we were asked to even pay some amount. So some private schools actually ask parents to pay.
Okay.
However, it will never be the same, because now we should have paid for third term for those ones who are in schools. And so they've missed out on that kind of fee. So really there is a shortage. So I think it depends on the impact, so that it will not be a one-size-fits-all. For example, you could decide, government can decide to say, you know what, your tax for this year could have been X amount. Let's, reduce it by X amount.
Oh, that's
By
good.
how much will the COVID-19 impact you? It will impact our business by 30% on our projected revenue. Okay, so we can do that. Or you have a loan with banks, and we can say, okay, come down the interest rate. Let's not pay anything back for the next 3 months or 6 months until you pick up. So it can be, it's in different areas.
Oh, that's true. I know government is doing some of those things that you have just mentioned.
Yeah.
And we can just hope that government do more. Now, we are talking about people that are in employment. We're not even talking about people that are not in employment, the unemployed.
Yeah.
Now, what word of encouragement will you give to job seekers, even in this dispensation?
There's a quote about you getting ready for an opportunity, so that when the opportunity comes, you are ready.
Good.
What I normally tell people, because I engage in coaching and mentoring, I also prepare people for interview, for jobs, and I also look for jobs for people in my private capacity. It's always about get yourself ready. Ready yourself. So continue to, learn what's going on around you, what's going on in the industry where you want to work. What about your skill, your education? Are you improving yourself? Now, what are the jobs of the future? So, for example, do you have any computer literacy skill? Are you learning any of the programming languages? Are you involved in some, gaming skills? All of those things that some people take for granted. They do it very well, but they take it for granted. But these are the skills of the near future, even now. So people need to continue to develop themselves. Even when you are a qualified lawyer, for example, or qualified accountant, there are some part of your jobs, right, today, that will be taken over by artificial intelligence, by robots, by robotics. So how are you readying yourself to make yourself indispensable? It's not just about even those who are unemployed. Even those who are employed today, how do you ensure that you continue to be relevant in the next few years to come? Because if you're not, then danger will come.
Thank you very much, Mr. Oni, for coming to tell us much about this. We have enjoyed you, no doubt about that. And you have spoken very well, and you have made us to understand that we need to continue to learn and develop ourselves. Viewers, there is no doubt COVID-19 is a threat to so many things, and job security is one of them. You have heard it from our guest. We need to continue to learn and continue to develop ourselves. Mr. Oni, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Still to come, another hot topic before we go today. Don't go away. We will be right back.